Cool. So we're recording. I'm here with Bette Chen, one of our co-founders and COO. Bette, do you want to just start off and maybe give a quick introduction to yourself and what you do for Akala?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dan. And hi, everyone. This is Bette. I'm the co-founder of Acala. Currently recording from Auckland, New Zealand. That's where quite a few of us in Akala based. But of course, we are a very diverse team. I think there are folks in the US and South America, in China, also in parts of Europe and Singapore as well. So that is the environment that we are working in, very remote, very diverse, very decentralized, I guess. So yeah, so a bit of myself. I had an engineering background from university, specialized in software. So I was a developer right after school. But then later on, I was more focused on product development in tech. And it was a rare chance that I think 6 or 7 years ago, I stumbled across Bitcoin, like many of us here, right? Once you got into that rabbit hole, you never come back. So basically dig into everything about Bitcoin and subsequently Ethereum. And that's how somehow magically I had a career change and moved into crypto full-time a few years back. And once you are in the arena, you meet like-minded people and cool people that you really like to work with. And that's where I met the other co-founders like Rital and Brian, very talented engineer and also entrepreneur, which is very important for the makeup of Akala, is we have a diverse team. So we've got top engineers, also got top entrepreneurs, and also got top people, for operation and growth now, like Dan joined us this year. So yeah, so that's how we, come about to today. Yeah.
Cool, thanks. So we're going to get into Akala and maybe some of the technical things, but let's also start out just kind of talking about you, so people can get to know you a little bit better. So could you maybe talk about like maybe one or a couple of things that you like to do in your free time when you're not building your products?
Definitely. I have a lot of interests, but one thing top is snowboarding. That is one thing I missed when I moved to this crypto job, that I moved from Christchurch, which is the South Island of New Zealand, to actually the North Island, a warmer place that are far away from the mountains. We used to actually go snowboarding every weekend, but hopefully I can get back into it this weekend, this winter, actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And this could kind of lead into the same kind of area of your life, but what would you say is something like interesting about you that most people probably don't know at this point?
I meditate.
Yeah, can you talk about like your retreat that you did earlier this year?
Yeah, sure. So I went to a cave. Well, went to a meditation retreat called Vipassana. But the main thing is like to switch off. I think probably not only people in crypto, but especially in crypto, you're 24/7. The market is up and down. People can get very emotional. And also because you are that engaged in what you are doing, a lot of times you could lose perspective. A small thing can trigger a lot of the agitation, anxiety. Although, like once you switch off, turn your computer off, look at your families, look at, the very good, strong relationship that you have in your life, then, it puts a lot of things in perspective. And one of the reasons I do that retreat was to kind of like switch off and recharge. And it did just that. So I think not everyone needs to do like a 10-day retreat and put yourself in a cave or something like that extreme. But, I think we can all switch off 10 minutes, 20 minutes every day, or even an hour every day, just to put things into perspective through meditation or some other form of exercise, sports, running, or whatever that we do. So I also run as well. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, awesome. This is a question that I got from Tim Ferriss, who runs a huge podcast and has written several books. And he asks a lot of the people he interviews several questions. One of them that I think is interesting, which is if you had a gigantic billboard to give a message to, say, like 1 billion people, what would you put on that billboard?
Choose the unknown.
Choose the unknown?
Yeah. Or take
I
the
like
red pill.
Brian said buy Bitcoin. Okay, well, you already answered this one. When you feel stressed or unfocused, what do you do? Is there anything besides meditation that you think is helpful for like times when you're feeling a little bit unfocused?
Yeah, I think if you go down to the root cause of why you feel stressed or anxious or even emotional, it's mostly because we're not quite present, right? If you are very attached to the past, like something that you did wrong, and or you're very much attached to the future, anticipate what is going to happen, you're deemed to be in those not very positive mental state, right? So the main thing is like, how do I, what do I need to do to break that pattern? Like mostly thinking, thoughts, pattern, and move back into the present state. And apart from meditation, there are many things you can do, play tennis, play some sort of sports that takes your mind from, random thoughts into, very focused events. Running is also pretty good, or walking, or just having a healthy conversation, engaged conversation with your loved ones would also be good, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's start moving in a little bit towards like your career, and then we'll get into Akala and Karura. So you gave background on like your career, what led you to coming into crypto. But could you talk about like on these days where we're working, 12, 14 hours plus, like what drives you, what inspires you to do what you do every day?
Yeah, so I think what drove me to crypto or the blockchain area is I see the potential how they can change the like the fabric of society, because Bitcoin kind of proved the point of value. We can take that power back to individuals. You're not beholden to any one authority, right? Everyone have ownership of what they're supposed to own. So Bitcoin kind of make it possible that everyone own their value or own their property. We didn't used to have that before. I don't know if people realize when you have a bank card, the money on the bank card, we don't own it. It's an IOU, right? So bank owes you some money. If you ask nicely, they will give you back, but they could just close the door or shut their server, and you wouldn't be able to access that value or that money. So I think Bitcoin allows us to have real ownership. And then the second thing allows kind of like switch our mindset is no one actually owns the Bitcoin network. So no one actually owns the monetary policy, or no one actually controls the rules that governs who owns what, right? This is all governed by the Bitcoin network. So those two things, Bitcoin only applies that to money and value, very specific use case. However, that ownership, proof of ownership, and also resistant to some authority controlling everything and everyone's life. These two things can apply to almost every single aspect of our lives, right? And that is kind of like mind-bending and also inspiring that there are so many things that we can turn around in our life. For example, I think we are currently beholden to many of the Web2 companies where they've done a great job, providing products and services that make our lives more convenient, but probably by design, they kind of converge to this giant resource sucker and sucking up everybody's data and resource, and are not able, probably also by design, not able to share any of those wealth or profits they generated through exploiting everyone's data. However, blockchain turns that entire model around. For example, when we built Akala, one thing that drives us every day is how we measure our success ultimately is we can actually hand the network over to all of the network ICA token provider holders, right? So if we can be hands off, like as a core developer team, if we can actually go into that cave that I talked about earlier for 10 days, 20 days, 30 days without further monitoring the network, it can still be self-governing through its governance model, and also economically sustainable through economic sovereignty from the network. And the token holders can through governance vote to continue to manage and evolve the network. Then that's the success. It is very idealistic probably, but I think it's very possible through the plan that we've put out, and so far the proof that we've had so far. But of course, everyone's anticipating the launch very soon. But this is the direction that we are heading. And this turns the model around, because if I walk into a bank today, while I can open a bank account and borrow a loan, but I would not be possible to become a shareholder. Or if the CEO or the company is misconducted, I would not be able to vote the CEO out. I have none of those rights, right? So in a blockchain and how we design the sort of the next generation network is this co-ownership model. Anyone who participated, contributed in certain ways, they also co-own the platform or the network that they are participating in. So this kind of flips around the whole model of how you actually share the wealth that you generated, how you actually share the ownership, and also how you share responsibility. Right. So these all come in proportion to each other. But now at least we have, I guess, a very reasonable or technological capable way for us to all implement that and roll that out to many aspects of life. And of course, for Akala, we are trialing that out in the finance arena, but this technology can be used in many other fields. And we are only at the very beginning of all the stuff that I was talking about. That's what drives me up every day, right? Because I know there's so many things that we could do, and then there's also so many things we haven't got to the point where we can hand off to say we are truly decentralized. So those are all the motivators, I guess, that makes me exciting and inspired. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, and that leads into a couple other questions. So. Sticking to Akala for now. So if you had to use like 3 adjectives or 3 descriptive words to describe Akala, what would those 3 words be?
That's a tough question. Okay, so that would be stable, trusted in a trustless way, and decentralized.
Okay, that's great. Brian's answer was Polkadot DeFi Hub for the three words. So I rephrased the question a little bit. And then I guess switching to Karura, how would you describe Karura in 3 words?
It's actually easier. So Karura is hot. Karura is so hot and innovative and also cool.
Perfect. Okay, so going back to, I guess, the beginning of all of this with Akala, could you maybe just tell a brief story around how the teams came together, how Akala started, maybe what made you realize that there was this need for this DeFi parachain, a stable coin, because I know you were working on Laminar at the time, so maybe just a little history of Akala?
Sure. Yeah. So so prior to Akala, we set up Laminar. So that was before when I met Brian and Retail, we decided to build something in the DeFi space. So we started Laminar. It's focused on synthetic asset margin trading, but it's also a sort of DeFi protocol development house, basically. And then it was right at the point where we decided to move all our focus onto substrate development, because we built our prototype on Ethereum, believe it or not. It actually launched on Coven. So there's full synthetic asset margin trading protocol on there. So we're about to launch on Ethereum, but that's also the beginning of yield farming. And then we evaluated, everything, and think probably substrate and Polkadot is probably much better bet for the model that we are able to launch. And stablecoin is actually a critical path in building that protocol. And then at the time when we started building in substrate, that was like 2.5 plus years ago. So it was very, very early. Not only the framework substrate is very in the early stage of development, also the ecosystem is at a very early stage. We are probably one of the first for quite a while, the only commercial team that are building outside of parity. But of course, we've seen, we believe things, probably other people only seeing that today or believing that today, that, we kind of see the multi-chain future. We believe, substrate is at that time the leading framework that we could use to achieve our goals. But of course today, the gap is, miles bigger. But at the time, that was our conclusion at the time. And then, so there's a stablecoin needed to be built at the time. So we were approached by Web3 Foundation. We were thinking about it because in Polkadot, when you build things, the mindset needs to be way bigger. You are not building something that's proprietary or only serve your own purposes. If you are going to build something like a stablecoin, it will need to serve the community, like a multi-chain community, right? Even you're talking about just within the Polkadot network, that has to be like a community-driven sort of stablecoin product. So we thought it wouldn't just Laminar to build us, it wouldn't be quite right. But at the time, we went to this first substrate hackathon held in Hangzhou, where Brian, our other co-founder, was a judge alongside Gavin. That was the time we met the Polka Wallet team, so led by Fu Yao. They were one of the earliest developer also creating a mobile wallet there. And then they are also very solid builders. And then we saw Fu Yao, waving this hammer on stage and then raving about how much he hated about, all the ERC20 like ICO craze that kind of destroyed a lot of the reputation or a lot of people's faith in using crypto or using blockchain as a new innovation to change many aspects of lives. And then everyone's thinking about ICOs and things like that. He's very angry about that. So anyways, so that was like how we actually met Fu Yao and his team. And then right after that was like, this guy has a very high moral standard and value-wise and also vision-wise very aligned with us. And at the same time, he wanted to do something in DeFi as well. So and then right after that, we started dating by opening a GitHub repo, and then we coded for a month or so. And then that's how consolidated our formal relationship after that. And that's sort of the backstory of Akala.
Perfect. Let's get into a little around, I guess, internal aspects of Akala. So could you talk about like how you would describe the culture at Akala and what types of characteristics you look for in people that you're recruiting to join Akala or considering for employment?
Yeah, so all in all, we are a very engineering focused a group of people, a team, right? I think even for Dan, he turned into like a geek, or he's probably already a geek in crypto before he joined, and now he's even more geekier. So this is the culture. We're very engineering focused because we are infrastructure builder. We're at a very early stage of this technology. If we're not focusing on solving some of the fundamental technological problems, then we're not doing a good job, because whatever we built today is going to be used by many other developers and many other users in the future to make all of those tech mainstream, right? So this is a very important sort of thing that we feel pretty proud and also need to continue to carry out in the growth of the Akala team. And then beyond that, so we attracted a lot of talent. I think 10x developers tend to attract 10x developers, and also 10x operators, and also 10x whatever attracts 10x roles, right? So I think we're lucky enough. We started off many of the 10x talents founding the team, and then we continue to attract those talents. So we hopefully that's gonna carry on as well. So a high performer is certainly one of the culture here as well. And then thirdly is like we actually rate this very highly. Probably number one is integrity. This is not just saying, we have to hold ourselves very high standard, but we are in the industry that is evolving. Any early innovation or field, you're going to have a lot of gray areas, uncertainties, and you're going to have this wild group of people who are trying to just leverage technology for purposes other than progressing our human, improvement and doing good to the society. And sometimes it's a very fine line. So integrity, we hold it very, very highly within the team through individuals, but also through how we conduct all the activities that we do internally and externally. And also, I think integrity and trust, even though we are trying to build trustless network, but trust is something that is very hard to build and very easy to break. So we take that very, very seriously. And every single person in the team holds very high responsibility of making something that could benefit many people, but also many of the information and things that we handle are highly critical and sensitive to many of the users that we will serve, right? So I think those three things kind of describes who we are, like, still very nerdy engineering focused, and very passionate about what we are doing, but also holds very high integrity. And at the same time, we're also kind of fun because everyone, we're a very straightforward team, mostly because engineering driven, but we're also intentionally trying to be very straightforward. We say what we think. We don't hold anybody, personally, but we discuss things very openly. And we have fun together, right? So there's a whole bunch of snowboarders, a whole bunch of game players, and there's many things that we enjoy, not just like working and coding and do stuff together, but also, play together as well. So that's how we are today. Yeah.
Awesome. So in your role, you're doing a lot with our products. And one thing that I was wondering is, I guess, what would you say your favorite product is, or which product that we're building you're most excited about, and maybe why you're excited about that product?
You're trying to ask me which child is my favorite. that is gonna that's very hard to choose, and then it's gonna piss other children off. So yeah. But I would say this, right? What we're doing at Akala, at least at this stage, we're creating a completely new category, because in the past, you will see teams more focused on layer one, building a blockchain. And then you're also seeing teams building protocols, like Compound and Aave. They're focusing on the protocol itself. And you also see folks who are building mostly the front end, the portfolio managers or the aggregators and things like that. So people all operate at different levels. I think it might be first time that, partly powered by what Substrate and Polkadot has made possible, that we are a team building in multiple layers. So this is an entire category, because Akala is both a blockchain network as well as a set of protocols. So we have a stablecoin borrowing protocol, and then we have a AMM decentralized exchange, and then we also have liquid staking that makes your stake asset also liquid and be used in other DeFi protocols. So we are also protocol builders. And then at the same time, on top of that, we also have EVM, virtual machine, and down the track also, Inc. smart contract platform as well. So then we can empower more developers to build apps. So we are all, I guess, three things all together. And then sometimes it's quite hard to for people to compare us to a specific project or team because we are all three, right? And I think this is going to be maybe more in the future that individual chains will be more specialized. Because if we think the future is multi-chain, then it makes sense that chains are going to be more specialized in what they do and solve a domain problem really well. For us, we purely focus on finance and trying to improve many of the roadblocks and bottlenecks that we're currently facing in traditional finance as well as in DeFi, right? So if you ask me to pick favorite, it's very hard. But again, I think first of all, all those products people are going to be really like to use, especially KSM holders, dot holders, or folks who actually want to expose to the staking economy. So if you have to ask me to pick one, I would pick products related to the proof of stake economy, because this is a completely new sort of economy that grows out of the the POW or other economy, because now you can actually have a meaningful and stable income out of, say, dot staking. And also, if you are a Bitcoin holder, it's also good news to you because you no longer need to sit with your Bitcoin. You can now, it's multi-chain, right? So you can cross your Bitcoin to Akala, and then you can use some of the products to actually participate in the proof of stake economy, earning the staking yield without selling your Bitcoin, right? So then this is sort of the area that becomes very, very interesting, and yeah, very, very cool. I guess the proof of stake economy would be my pick. Okay.
Great. That was the one I thought you were going to pick anyway.
Okay. All right.
So I'm going to ask, this is just the last question. So more of where you see things going. So if we think maybe 5 years down the road, it's April 2026. And we've been working on Akala for years, maybe building things on Akala. Where do you see, like, how do you see this playing out in that time frame? Like DeFi, multiple chains, like what would be your guess for how things play out?
That's like a lifetime. That's like a 3 lifetime in crypto. So you're asking me to predict like after 3 reincarnation and what is going to happen. Yeah. So I can. It's hard to estimate, right? Because all of those things could happen within a year or something.
Yeah.
But certainly, I can see a lot of things that we build will become infrastructure. Which means we're going to power a lot of the consumer products without people actually knowing it comes from Polkadot or it comes from Akala. If you use an analogy, this would be like, today you are using, I guess, Facebook or even Zoom, right? You wouldn't actually think about the cloud service, which cloud service that is using at the back end. Also, you wouldn't actually think about which what kind of TCP/IP or internet protocol that is using to package up all the data transmitting across the internet. You wouldn't think about any of those at all, right? We are actually operating and building in that level today in blockchain. So Polkadot is more like the internet protocol, and then Akala is more of like finance-focused infrastructure to route the payments and also to be able to support many of those situations. So I think if you think in a few years' time, a user or maybe my mom and dad will just like swipe their debit card or credit card like what they use it today, right? I think the future will be hi-fi. So, DeFi and CeFi all merged together as a hybrid finance as hi-fi. So my mom and dad will probably still interface with many of the familiar providers. There could be new ones, but they will still use the similar interface, like swipe a credit card, or, it's an in-app, swipe and pay, QR code payment process, no different from, WeChat Pay or whatever that we are familiar with today. However, behind the scene, it's probably powered by many different blockchain application and services. So you can imagine, my mom is probably going to, swipe the card or save some of the dollars into the card, and that could, potentially route it into Akala's DeFi suites or some of the portfolio or investment vehicle built on top of Akala to make that money work for her, right? It could turn into like a 5% or 10% savings account. And maybe she's also interested. Now she's hearing me talking about, or maybe hearing Brian talk about buy Bitcoin, and then every, I don't know, 5% of her saving goes automatically into Bitcoin. Right? And then maybe 10% goes into DOT, staking yield. And then through that staking yield, automatically get converted back to dollars. And then she can use that to buy grocery, right? And all of this will happen within her, debit card, or just a simple app that she can see, how much dollar in, what is the interest rate. Probably not much different, apart from, the financial aspect looks way better and more liberating. But behind the scene, this is all powered by, many different networks working together. And on top of that, folks probably don't want their transaction history being seen by anybody. So this could be, you go Bitcoin and then jump onto Polkadot, jump onto Acala, and then jump onto Fala or some other privacy network, and it comes back with a privacy sort of token that hides all the transaction history, but you still get whatever the returns that you get through the app, right? So all I'm trying to say is like we're gonna become the bottom of the iceberg, and then there will be folks that we integrate with would deliver the tip of the iceberg to a very, very wide mass market. So that will be ideal. I will be very happy to see that many more people, like mass market adoption of what we are building today, basically replacing the backbone of the TradFi. And then the second thing I would be hoping to see is we are able to get to our end goal, is to actually decentralize. And this network is actually operated, owned, and governed by all the people on Acala network, rather than just a core team, right? So so those will be the two things.
Cool. Well, that's everything I had. So thanks for taking us through a little bit more about you and your career and Acala. I know I learned something new, and I think a lot of people will. So thanks for taking the time.
No problem. Thanks for doing this, Dan.
Yep.